is the day of a very important Shloka 2.45. And one of the shlokas that actually became famous, 2.45. Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha Naistraigunyo Bhavarjuna Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvastaha Niryogakshema Atmavan. A very important shloka because it separates itself from the Veda, it seems, and it almost seems to criticize the Veda. Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha. So the Vedaha, the 3 or 4 Vedas, depends on whom you ask, or the original are Shruti, concern themselves with the 3 gunas. And he has talked about it earlier. The gunas in the sense, how can I achieve, how can I gain cows, horses? How can I gain victory over the enemies? How can I have children? Invoke the Deva, all the Devas, and get things from them. So anytime you look for gain, it's a transactional relationship. Obviously, Sri Krishna is going to reject it. And he says the Veda, or the 3 Veda, the 4 Vedas concern themselves with the 3 gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. But you, Arjuna, become free of the 3 gunas. Nistraigunyo bhavarjuna. Bhava. So bhava is lot lakara, if you remember the lakara. When you tell someone to do something, bhava. And so second person, if you remember when we did those paradigms. So become free of the 3 gunas. Nistraigunyo. Gunyaha becomes gunyo when you do the sandhi. Bhava Arjuna. And then comes a very powerful line. What should you become? This is where Sri Krishna now comes to a space all his own. And we will come to these, to how he has positioned the reasoning, the logic, the adhyatma into a space where and this will come again and again in the Gita, nirdvandvo, without duality. Dvandva, wherever there's duality, you be free of it. Nirdvandvo, nitya sattvasthaha. Nitya is eternal, forever, abiding. Sattva is not the sattva, rajas, and tamas. This is the sattva of sat. So, be seated, sthaha, be seated in truth eternally. Niryoga kshema atmavan. Whenever we use the word van in Sanskrit, it means someone who possesses it, like balavan. One who possesses bala is balavan. So here, atmavan, possessing your soul, possessing your atman. And the word atman, of course, has a great role to play later in the Gita, and it will come later, more and more. But this is a very strange phrase he uses, niryogakshema. Normally, niryogakshema would mean free of yoga. And kshema is that which brings you good. So he's saying be free of yoga and be free of whatever brings good to you, kshema. So we should remember that Sri Krishna is very flexible in how he uses words. And in this shloka, he has used 3 words almost the opposite of their usual meaning. One is Veda, the second is yoga, and the third is kshema. Yoga is to add, as we have discussed in the past. Yuja is the root, to add, to join, to yoke. Even today, the word yoke in English comes from yuj. So, but it also can mean when you gain something, when you accomplish something, when something is added to you. Be free of that. Because if you are the possessor of the Atman, what can be added to you? Nothing. So he has used the word in the opposite sense of what we normally take the word as. Normally we say yoga is good. Here he's saying niryoga. Kshema is what brings you goodness, beneficence, possessions. He says beyond what does good to you. And again, if you think about it, if you possess the Atman, or you're established in the Atman, then what can bring good to you? You're already the good. So in Sanskrit, you will realize one word. Sanskrit, the beauty of the language, since it comes from root sounds, it has multiple meanings. Paryaya vachi. And it has, one word will have multiple nuances and meanings on different layers. And the same word can actually mean the opposite sometimes. Depends on how you take it. So here, yoga in the spiritual sense is a good thing. But in this shloka, yoga in the sense of something being added to you is a concept that Sri Krishna rejects. Veda comes from the root vida, is to know, knowledge. And in this chapter, second chapter, it almost seems that Sri Krishna has rejected the Vedas. And we have seen that previously, Yam Imam Pushpitam Vacham, if you remember that shloka. All these flowery words that people use to confuse the brain. So, but what he has rejected is the approach that we take to the Vedas, where we approach it to get something out of it. Even now, we may see people who go to the temple or who pray to ask Sri Krishna or the divine for something. And that is what the divine means to them. What can I get from the divine? That is an attitude that Sri Krishna completely rejects. So here, again, in a very beautiful way, he has brought Arjuna to reject everything else but the truth of the Atman. And again, he will build on it. He will take this concept further. And the entire second chapter, the next 27 shlokas, he will go to 72 shlokas, will slowly build on the concept of sthita prajna. From the shlokas 55 to 72, it is a beautiful elaboration of the sthita prajna, as we say in Hindi, or sthit prajna, as we say in Sanskrit. And here he has established now the grounds on which he will build up this argument. So we have talked about in the past that the Gita works on several levels. One of the level, of course, is the very practical level, is he's talking to Arjuna. And he's telling Arjuna to fight the war, not to give up the war. And he takes the spiritual logic that Arjuna seems to use and turn it on its head. So he is using the argument of Arjuna as a weapon against himself. And he will build the concept, and we saw that in 2.11, when he talks about the Purusha. Arjuna talked as if he understood everything, as he was full of knowledge, full of wisdom. We should leave these worldly pleasures as if that's the highest wisdom. And he takes that logic of Arjuna and he takes it to a higher level of Sankhya wisdom, where you reach the Purusha, concept of the Purusha. Here again, if you saw, From 2.11 to 2.25, he talked about the Purusha. Then 2.25 to 2.30 shlokas, he talked about logic. Even if you are right, even if there is no Purusha, you should fight this battle. Then 2.31 to 2.38, he talks about Swadharma. He talks about what Papa is, what Svarga is. And 2.39 onwards, he starts focusing on Karma Yoga. But he brings this element of the Veda. Beautifully, he introduces the note. Why? Because Veda started becoming Karma Kanda. Karma, again, remember, karma is coming. So he had to bring karma, the specific karma of the Veda, and criticize the approach that we take to Veda. Eventually, he will go to the deeper sense of the Veda, which is the spiritual sense of the Veda. And there he will in a wonderful shloka, he will elaborate in the 4th chapter what the Veda really means, what the symbolism of the Veda is. And if ever there's any doubt about what the Veda really means, all one has to do is go to Sri Krishna and read the shlokas 4.18 to 4.27. And he has elaborated what the symbols of the Veda mean. So this shloka is unique because now he has turned away. This is the shloka where he has turned away from the description, the outer significance of the Veda, to the inner significance, which is his own, which is there in the Veda. But the truly wise man, the truly spiritual man, does not need any outside authority. Now Sri Krishna is giving his own authority. That is his authority. Nirdvandva, Nityasattvastha, Niryoga Kshema, Atmavan. And so whenever we talk about spirituality, the greatness, one of the great features of our spirituality is we go beyond our own scriptures, which is a very beautiful thing. We learn our scriptures, we master our scriptures, and then we go beyond them to the truth, which is the truth of our own Atman, to the truth of the Brahman, to the truth of the Paramatman. So that is something that we must always remember. There is no book that is greater than the truth. Even the Veda is not greater than the truth. And the truth is in your heart. If you can touch that, then you have an ounce of that knowledge is greater than a universe of bookish wisdom. So the goal is to touch that. If we can touch that bhava, that spirituality, that adhyatma, that is within us, that is who we are, then that is greater than the whole universe of intellectual knowledge. So our beautiful scriptures constantly bring us to this, to even make us go beyond themselves, to go back to us, to reflect on it until we reach to the final destination, which is our own truth. Because our own truth is the real truth of the universe. So let us look at the padached of this. This is a beautiful page. I love this. It really gives you all the sandhis and all. Tray gunya, three, gunya. Again, this is a sandhi. So tray gunya, vishayaha. So this becomes what is called a samasa. 3 words, tray, gunya, vishayaha. Vishayaha, if you remember, janaha, janau, janaha. Many janas, many people. Here, vishayaha, vishayau, vishayaha. Many vishaya. So the Vedaha, again, the many Vedas concerned themselves with the 3 gunas. Nis, again, it is nih plus tray plus gunyaha. Be beyond the 3 gunas. Again, another samasa. Samasa is when words come together and become one. Bhava, Arjuna. Bhava is to be, Arjuna. And then, of course, this is relatively easy. Nirdvandva, nitya sattvastaha, niryoga. You see the sound nih 3 times. He has used the word nih once above, and you can look at it as a negative way of rejecting. In the first word, nistraigunya, nirdvandva, but in the third, it comes to nitya, and again niryoga. So 3 negatives, rejecting what is not part of the Atman and the one abiding truth. So any kind of duality to Sri Krishna is non-spiritual. Very briefly, one more thing, if you remember, we have talked about the Gita working on various levels. One is the practical level for Arjuna, but he's also trying to bring Arjuna to the spiritual level. And that's why he's giving Arjuna a message that is not only to fight, but to fight with a spiritual knowledge. The other level is when he's dealing with us. If we read it, what are we getting out of it? And to us, he's giving in this shloka a very clear spiritual advice and foundation. So that is the third level. That is our own spiritual level. So the Gita, like most of our scriptures, works at various levels. Just like the Veda works at various levels, the Gita also works at various levels. And we should always remember that. And we should never take one shloka as the entire truth of the Gita. Because in this shloka, the Vedas are criticized by Sri Krishna. But later, you will realize when he says the true knowledge, from the true knowledge, I created the Veda. I am Samaveda. So if he's saying I am among the Vedas, I am Samaveda. When he's talking about the highest, the best. So he's very flexible. His language is very flexible. So we must always remember that Sri Krishna is not caught up in one word. He goes beyond the limited sense of a word, and he always transcends it because he's coming from a different consciousness. So I think that is should be enough introduction to this amazing and well-deservedly famous shloka that we are reading. If you want to read Swami Brahmananda, it may be the beautiful recitation.
Trigunya Vishaya Vedaha Nitrigunya Bhavardhuna Nirvamgo Nitya Sattvastaha Niryoga Atmava.
So really a very beautiful recitation by Swami Brahmananda. And I think this is one of the few shlokas that his voice just elaborates, almost flowers, although his every shloka he has recited in a wonderful manner. But especially in this shloka, I absolutely love the way he interpreted the Gita. And again, every artist like Swami Brahmananji interprets it his own way. They use the patha to interpret it their own way. And we have talked about how Sanskrit is a language of sound. Originally, Sanskrit is a language of sound, where each sound has its own significance. And suppose I just very briefly, let's touch it, and you all can play with it later. This is just to put the seed in your head. Say we say, in those who have done the alphabets, a, I, U. You have all done those alphabets, right? So very quietly say the sound and where it's coming from, and how it resonates, When you say the beauty of the swara in Sanskrit is the swaras, you don't touch anything. There's no sparsha involved. It is not like pa that I'm touching or ta where my tongue is touching the teeth. So the swaras are supposed to be the original sounds. Nothing is being touched. It's coming from a little lower in your vocal apparatus, and so just practice, just listen, because what we have done is we are caught up in the meanings so much that we are not listening to the sound of the alphabets. So, now you go to the next swara. When I say swara, it's the vowel, I. And now see where the sound is coming. Just focus, I. Do you see a change? Something happened? I. Was open. I. You contracted. Energy is contracted. I. A comes a little higher above. Comes from here. A. And listen to it as you speak. A. You have almost like you have narrowed the energy. And then let's go to U. U. Where is it coming from? Even higher. And how is it resonating inside you? So, U. And you will see that is an open sound, flowing. No limit. I. You have narrowed it. I. And U. U is a different way. It is not the narrowing of I, but U is like pushing out. U. So, I, U. And the whole point of bringing you to these original sounds is to start touching the genius of our language. Even the alphabets are designed, or the alphabets, the sounds were caught with a lot of science behind it. Now you will say I, U. Okay, I got it. And they're coming from different areas. They give me a different sense. They have a different feel to it. What about ah, e, oo? It is the same sound, but you have intensified it. You have put even more energy into it. Ah, ah, putting more effort. Again, it's the same level. Ah, it is unlimited. You're not restricting it. E, now you're restricting the energy. E, ooh. Ooh is a different kind of movement. If you can feel these, just like you listen to sound, suppose you listen to Beethoven, you listen to a sound, or you listen to Hari Prasad Chaurasia, depends on whom you like. Just the sound, there's no meaning to it. You're just listening to the sound. And the sound has an impact on your awareness. Something beautifully he's playing, or Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, da 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 dun, right? Dot 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 dash. Its sound has a movement in you. That is how the idea, the concept of Sanskrit is sound. And so if we can start listening to these sounds, then we'll realize they have a different impact on us. Because these sounds are what create the gathering of these sounds is what creates our language. So we get caught up in the mental meaning, but behind that is always the sound and how we approach Sanskrit shlokas. In other languages, we move in meanings, but in Sanskrit, there's a conscious effort to keep us in that experience, the anubhava of the sound. And the reason I'm spending a little time on the swara is every swara is defined where it's coming from, very specific, very precise, and has a whole science behind it. If we just understand each alphabet and can play with the alphabets of Sanskrit, we will understand the genius of Sanskrit poetry, how these sounds work parallelly while we are caught up in meanings. There is another world, another anukrama, another order of sounds that is going on. And that is called the perfection, or in English, inevitability of poetry. Inevitable is that which is perfect. There's nothing beyond it. So if we go back to this shloka, Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha, and see how beautifully the Visarga echoes. Vedaha. There's no language that allows a sound to echo. Right? Tray. Where is tra coming from? Tra is coming, your tongue is touching. Ta, ta, tha, da, dha, na. Tray, it's ta, ra. Right? Tray, it's coming from the tongue touching the teeth. Tray, ga. Now you have ga sound is where? In your vocal cord. Ka, kha, ga. Tray, ga, na. Na is your nasal sound. Right? Ta, tha, da, dha, na. Na is the murdhanya. So it has gone to the nose. Va. Va is the lip. Sh. Sh is ushna. You're putting sh. Sh, sh, sa. These are the ushna sounds. Sh. Vishaya. Ya is you have moved again to a different center. Ya, ra, la, va. So ya again you're going back. Now if you can hear the sound, forget the meaning for a moment. And that is why patha is so important. And then va, again you're coming here, and the. The is a soft sound. Ta, tha. Now notice each part of our vocal apparatus, and someday we can spend time on the vocal apparatus, how Sanskrit utilizes the entire vocal apparatus. If you go to English, you have 26 alphabets. If you go to Sanskrit, you have 50. Depends on whom you ask. Some will say 49, some will say 52. I don't want to argue with it. I just use the number 50 for a good reason, and we can always talk about it someday. So Sanskrit exploits each part of your vocal apparatus. And then not only is it done at Veda, it could have ended at Traigunya Vishaya Veda, but it doesn't end there. Veda ha. You have an echo of the sound happening. Ha. You're pushing the air out. It's called the Visarga. Visarga, Sarga is create. V is sending out. So, Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha. If we can just bring ourselves to the sound, see the perfection. Nistray Gunyo Bhavarjuna. I'm exaggerating it a little bit, but if you play with this, Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvastha Niryoga Kshema Atmavam. Just the sound has a completeness to it, as if a master composer has ting, 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 right? Beethoven goes ting, 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 and completes. So the shloka becomes complete in its sound. If we can touch the sound, then you will see another layer at which Gita is working, not just the meaning, but the sound. And we have done that. That is why I think it's a beautiful thing that we can listen to Swami Brahmanandji, how he uses the sound, and we can have the sound reverberate through us. Remember, each sound is meditation. Each is the beginning, right? A, B, C, D. Is the beginning. But is also signifying the absolute. So when the universe is created, and remember your own universe, through the universe is created. That is there's a whole science to sound. When we say Om, U, and Ma. Is the sound that is open, U is the sound that expands, and Ma is that which closes. And this Om has multiple meanings. O, is one consciousness, U is another consciousness, Ma is another consciousness. Is the beginning, U is the height, and Ma is the final end. So, Om usually signifies the divine. So that sound is used, that movement is given to us to give a sense of something else in our consciousness. if we can withdraw our consciousness from its usual obsession with meaning, then we come to pure sound. Just like if you go to a concert of, say, Chaurasia Ji or some other great Zakir Hussain or some great artist, you're not asking what does each sound mean. You're just listening to the sound. Each sound has its own expression, has its own bhava. So the player, the instrumentalist bhava comes in that sound. Now, if we can bring the bhava when we use these words and capture where the sound is coming from and what it implies, then you come to a new science of sound. So then my suggestion is just play with these sounds. And thus these 6 sounds: a, I, U, a, I, E, U. And where are the sounds coming from? And each sound has its own universe. Each sound has its own consciousness. Each sound is its own experience. So later, if those who do yoga or practice yoga, use one sound and just practice on it, because that sound has a quality. And if you want certain quality or certain energy to manifest on you, then you focus on that sound. So I think this was today was just an introduction to the entire science of sound. If you start liking it and you see the hidden music, then you see how a great work like the Gita or the Vedas or the Upanishads, they beautifully use sound for what is called the mantra. Mantra is the highest expression of sound, meaning, and vision. So there are 3 elements to poetry: sound, just the sound, the meaning, and then the vision. Is there a vision? And it manifests in different things. So we just need to, those who want to master the sound part of Sanskrit, we have to be very quiet and just listen to the sound. So if you play Swami Brahmanandji, don't even worry about what he's saying. Just let the sounds work through your consciousness, play in your consciousness, come back to you. You will start repeating those words. You may not even understand what they mean. That's okay. When we were born, we didn't know what people meant. We lived in a different consciousness. So if we allow that, then we start experiencing the sound of Sri Krishna. The sound that Sri Krishna gave, we are directly experiencing it. The moment you realize that, because the consciousness of the great teacher becomes the sound. Even when we talk, right? When I'm talking, obviously, I'm just talking at a normal level. We are talking. Our thought becomes the sound. Now, Sri Krishna's wisdom becomes that sound. And I'm not even talking about the meaning. Now, when you just listen to the sound, you're touching the consciousness of Sri Krishna. You're touching the consciousness where it came from. That is the original understanding of the student and the guru connecting. The first thing that the guru does is recite a shloka for the student. And the student just listens and recites it again. And that is their connection. There's no great logic. They're not thinking great thoughts. They're touching as if a mother touches a child with experience. So the sound experience is our connect with our great teachers. If we can listen to the music of these words, then the whole exercise of last few months of doing the patha, of appreciating how the patha is done, then it starts making sense. And remember, shiksha is a whole science in the Veda. It's one of the Vedanga, how to pronounce, how to speak, how to enunciate, how to listen, That is a whole Vedanga. In our own little way, we have touched that shiksha of the Gita, just the sounds of the Gita. So really, that's it. I know I've gone on a detour today on sound, but I think now you're all ready to hear this and you're ready to experience it. And we can talk about the different significances of each sound later. But now as you play deeper, you do the patha. Now you can play with the sound. And that is the brilliance of it. Now you can let your voice go. You can say Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha. Or if you're a different kind of in a bhava, Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha. You can play with it like a singer is. Depends on your bhava. You can elaborate. You can let your consciousness come out. And in our tradition, when we start mastering sound, we start mastering our consciousness. It's one of the most beautiful things that our tradition, our Sanskriti has discovered is to master sound. Through sound, sound is that hook through which we understand ourselves. We seldom pay attention to the sound. We pay attention to the meaning. Now let's go back to the sound, and we can go over the different vowels, different consonants, and what they imply. But eventually you have to start playing with them in your own head, in your own ears, in your own voice box. As you speak, you hear, and listen to yourself. Just listen to that sound. Listen to the feeling that you're getting. E, U, E, U. What are the different sensations it's giving you? Just the bhav. So that's all I have. If you have any questions, otherwise I will ask you questions. So does anyone want to do the part of this? Anyone interested?
Yeah, I can.
Jidesh ji, chalo, you do it.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna Nirdando Nitya Sattvasto Niryoga Kshema Atmavan.
Very nice. So just a couple of points. When you remember this Veda is not Veda, Vedaha. Look at the Padachhed and you're hesitating. So let your voice come out. Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha. So Visarga, the Visarga after Ya, Ha, that Visarga goes away because it's before V. But at the end, as the Pada ends, Vedaha, that doesn't go away. So when we do the Patha, we will do Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha. So try that.
Let me try once
Huh.
again. Traigunya Vishaya Veda
Vedaha.
Vedaha
Ha. Let your Visarga come out with like a punch. Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha.
Traigunya Vishaya Veda
Ha.
Vedaha
Yeah.
Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna Nirdvando Nitya Sattvasto.
Satvastha. When you do the patha, you go back to the visarga. So look in the padacheda. Nirdvandva. That nirdvandva becomes nirdvandvo. The visarga becomes O sound, but at the end of the pada, the visarga remains as it is. So let's try this. Nirdvandvo nitya satvastha. And spend time, make friends with the sound. Don't rush. We're not going anywhere. Nirdvandvo nitya satvastha. See how beautiful tha. You're closing the deal.
Nirdvando Nitya Sattvasto.
Tha.
Nityasattvastaha.
Yes.
Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
So let's do the whole thing now, Jidesh, from beginning to end.
Traigunya Vishaya Vedah. Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. Nirdvandva Nityasattvastaha. Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Right. So let's do this again. Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna Nirdvandvo Nityasattvasthaha Niryogakshema Atmavan. So again, let's practice this more and more. And I think someone else wanted to do this too. I saw a little comment.
Yeah, Rahul.
Go ahead, sir.
Traigunya Vishayaha. I'll start again.
Yeah.
Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha Nistregunyo Bhavarjunaha Nirdvando Nitya Sattvastaha Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Right. So give each sound its proper duration. Each sound is important. You're not favoring anyone over the other. They're all your friends. Because remember, each sound has its significance. Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha. Let's try this, Rahulji. Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna.
Nistregunyo Bhavarjuna.
Yeah. So here there is no Visarga. Bhavarjuna. Nirdvandvo Nityasattvasthaha.
Nirdvando Nitya Sattvastaha
Niryogakshema Atmavan.
Yogakshema Atmavan.
Right. Let's play Swami Brahmananji again, if you can play that. See how beautifully he expresses the sounds of each sound comes and flowers in his tongue, on his tongue.
त्रैगुण्य विषया वेदाः निस्त्रैगुण्यो भवार्जुन निर्द्वन्द्वो नित्यसत्त्वस्थः निर्योगक्षेम आत्मवान्.
See how he lets his voice stretch. He is not afraid. He loves it. He's playing with it. He's dancing. He is letting the vocal cords express themselves. And the sound comes alive. With his, there is a vibration happening when he sings it, and you can catch it. Now, that is a very beautiful rendering, and I keep bringing you back to it so you can start experiencing the sound. And maybe we should do some shlokas where you don't even understand the meaning. You just hear the sound, how beautifully he plays with the sound. So one thing, don't be afraid. You're afraid. You're hesitant. Don't be hesitant. So if you do it several times, that hesitation will go away. Listen to him, then do it again. Listen to him, then do it again. And I guarantee you after the 10th time, this will become very easy. Traigunya. And when you say na is an anuswara. It's not a na. It's a na. Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha. This na is a very beautiful sound in the middle of the whole pada. Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha. Again the sound comes. Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. It is not the sound of a na, it's the sound of a na. Ta, ta, da, da, na. And that is the murdhanya sound. The sound is going right through your palate. Na. So when you start listening to it, you will see how beautifully the whole apparatus is used to create the sounds and the sentences in Sanskrit. And the greatest poet is one who can use this sound to take you to the original experience that he or she is having. bring you to that experience. That is the meaning of a kavi. So we can see how mantra might work, but to experience the mantra, we have to listen. And as we listen to the sounds of Sanskrit, it is not like English language, English, unfortunately, are modern languages. We've just used them for meaning. Go get me this cup of tea. You're not listening to the sound. Please get me a cup of tea. There is no sound. You're not enjoying. You just go and get the cup of tea. But how much have we lost in the process? Sanskrit takes us back to the roots of sound, which is where we start from. When we are babies, when we are born, when we are listening to the mother, she's saying, we have no clue what she's saying. But the sounds are coming in that pure consciousness. The gestures are coming. Everything is a blur, and the sounds are beginning to register. And it's a very different consciousness. It's an innocent consciousness. Now, I'm not saying you become like a baby and totally helpless, but that original consciousness where the purity is, where the thoughts have not hijacked your awareness, we want to go back to that. And that will happen when you start experiencing sound. When you regrow that apparatus, it's almost like you lost an indri. It shrunk. It part of your brain just shrank. Now we're going to use it again. It'll grow again. That part of your brain, that ang of your body, you will grow again. Your ang of that, your consciousness. And those who love music will probably relate to what I'm saying, but that's okay. All of us will develop the appreciation of the sound music. Anyone else wants to do this? Or Rahulji, you want to do it again?
Yes, sir.
Do it with flair. Make your neighbor listen to it. Neighbor is listening quietly, and I want you to make him experience the passion in your voice. Don't worry about good looks. Just focus on the sound.
त्रैगुण्य विषया वेदाः निस्त्रैगुण्यो भवार्जुन निर्द्वन्द्वो नित्यसत्त्वस्थः निर्योगक्षेम आत्मवान्.
Yes, there's a little more passion in your voice. When you say nirdvandvo, dva, it is not nirdvando, nirdvandvo. Okay?
निर्द्वन्द्वो.
Nirdvandvo. Yeah. That again is a play of the v sound. So how beautifully it is arranged. Dvandva is duality. The sound, as Sri Aurobindo has beautifully explained, the has a quality of dashing or sudden movement. The. And he has described this whole sound the in one of his essays. So I think that's where we are. Someone had a comment. If we can look at the questions. There was one comment on Brahman which caught my eye. Can we look at the comments? Chat.
Should I read?
I can read. I can ask a
Yeah.
question.
Okay, Rajesh.
Yes, Rajesh ji.
Yes, I have questions all the time. So my question is like when you were saying the sounds take you to the experiencing the Atman, it's just the experience. Can any name or word do that? Like whatever word we, deities, names and other things that can come up. How does the word and the pronunciation and the sound help you experience the experiences? What I was thinking about.
Yeah. So there's a whole science of sound, as I think you're begun appreciating, like we said, a, o. We will come to the anuswara, the visarga. Different sounds have different significances. Similarly, your name has a significance. When you say Rajesha, the sound, I'm not talking about the meaning. Yes, we love the sound of our name. You know the most favorite, the most favorite word Rahulji, what is the most favorite word to you in the whole world? Whole world? Do you know that word?
Atman.
No.
Probably his name.
His
Rahul.
name? Rahul. So our consciousness has become identified with that word. In that little consciousness that we have developed, that contracted consciousness has become identified with that. But you're not that, right? I can prove to you in a moment that you're not Rahul. That's just a name given to you. But now it is the most important thing to you. Someone says Rahul to you, you say, aha, you respond to it. Someone say good things about Rahul, you say, wow, as if it's you, right? Even though it's not you. So we identify with these sounds. So there are several parts of it. One is identification. Now, when you have bhava for a certain name, for say your mom, ma, right? Obviously, she's not the word, she's not the sound. But in your consciousness, ma is that nam rupa. And your bhava comes to that. So this is a different anukrama where your bhava is attached, is yukta, identified with a certain sound. So suppose you have, say, Ram, you do the japa of Ram. When we do japa, we put all our consciousness in Ram, 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 or in our ancient Vedanta, Soham, Soham, and you let the sound come slowly, and you do it again and again, and every time you do it even more slowly, even more quietly. You may start like Soham and Soham, 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 Soham. You let the sound settle in your body, in your awareness, Soham, until it's just a whisper, Soham. And there's a whole science to the japa, until the sound also disappears. And in our tradition, what is it called? Do you know? A japa japa. When you're no longer doing the japa, but the japa is going on. Now think about it. When you first fell in love, the woman or the girl you loved, how beautiful that sound was to you, or is to you. I hope it still is. Otherwise, you won't get your dinner tonight or lunch. But that bhava is united with certain sound. It's the most beautiful sound in the whole world. Now, when you're doing japa, one part is the bhava. You become yukta with the bhava. It is identifying something, a bindu somewhere. Now you let the sound penetrate, percolate through your consciousness. So you may start, and traditionally they used to do 14 times or 7 times. That's why 108 times, certain cycle to it. You utilize the cycle. So as I said, I will start very loud, Om Namo Bhagavate, like the mother used to do. And that's how she taught. Om Namo Bhagavate, Om Namo Bhagavate, Om Namo Bhagavate, Om Namo Bhagavate. By the 7th, you're barely at a whisper. Now you take it notches, 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 until it's just a subtle sukshma ripple in your consciousness. That's all there is, a sukshma tarang, just a very little vibration. What happens? So japa has great power, but depends on how you use it. Mantra has great power. So if you have a deity, you invoke that deity. How we do it is a science. So if you are in love with Sri Krishna and you invoke Sri Krishna, Om Vasudevaya Namaha, Shri Vasudevaya Namaha. You do it again and again. Now your consciousness starts getting transformed. Right now, it is not going to happen tomorrow, next year, next janma, right now. But we have to listen to it. We have to become that sound. Because each sound has its own significance, has its own anubhava. Bhava is to be, and to become. So when you do this japa, you become that consciousness. And we have, hopefully I have agreed, or I have presented to you, and I have agreed on your behalf that the sound represents that awareness. So if I say Om Namo Bhagavate, I'm invoking the divine, Om Namo Bhagavate, and I do it again and again and again until it becomes an japa japa. The sound stays with me. My consciousness has already changed. Now you can take it further to subtler and subtler levels. So the answer to your question is yes. But again, that is why the mantra that was given to the student was given with great care. Not like, anyway, okay, this is your mantra for today, just say it 100 times. That mantra corresponded to your consciousness, to who you are. You're a different person than Rajesh ji is different from Rahul ji, is different from Parikshit. So each person has a sound that he vibrates to. The great teacher would give in from his deep awareness, whatever came, that mantra was given. That mantra would have healing powers. That mantra would have meditative powers. And you would spend your life, your entire life with that sound until you became that sound. And through that sound, you became liberated. That sound took you to that experience. And through that experience, you became all experience. So there is a great wisdom to it. If the teacher doesn't give you the sound, then it has to come in the depths of your being. It can just come, boom, suddenly, and you know it's yours. And there is no questioning about it. Okay, I hope that answers.
Thank you.
Somewhat. It's the whole science. People spend years, the whole lifetime on sound. That's why Sangeet is a sadhana, is yoga. Sangeet is a complete yoga in itself. Poetry, kavya is a sadhana. If you just do that, you don't need to do anything else. You are already doing yoga. And that is why it is. Because it is your bhava and then the science. The vishaya and the vishayi. The one, the atman that is going into the vishaya and becoming one with it. Completely one. No separation. The duality is gone, like nirdvandvaha. So you become that sound, and suddenly something new will happen to you. You will be totally different. If you can touch that, then you have mastered the art, the soul of sadhana in sound. So I think that's all we have today. I don't have anything else. 1 hour is done. Today, I think we went on a detour of sound, but hopefully we will begin to appreciate the genius of our Sanskrit poetry. It is not just tukka or rhyming. There's something much deeper. The aspiration was to take you to a deeper awareness, which is who you are.
Well, I just wanted to step in here for a second, if you can hear me.
Makaranji, I was missing you.
No, I think you've really explained the deeper significance of sound very beautifully today. It's very important because in our system, we go to Shruti, and Shruti is not revelation in the Western sense, because revelation depends on eyes, but Shruti depends on sound. So we have Nada Brahman and Dhwani. Dhwani is the actual vibration behind the sound, you know. So there's a whole aesthetics based on Dhwani. So going back to the sound is a way to go to the primal vibration from which the universe itself emerged, you know. That's why we say Shiva ka jo damru hai. So it's that dance of Shiva, is that dance of the particles. Anyhow, but to answer or to address the question that Gaurav ji raised, Rajesh ji raised, I'm sorry. Now, there are two schools of thought, okay? So one is that that each, I mean, these sacred names, Rama, for example, that Ra goes all the way back to Egypt, you know, Ramesses, Ra, that Ra sound. But there's another school, which is what Maharishi Mahesh Yogi said, which is that it's arbitrary. So the mantras that transcendental meditators got were not like the traditional mantras, but even those were enough to flip your consciousness. So there are these two schools. But one thing is very interesting, which we can ponder over, that in Tantra, like Dr. Singh just said, there are 50, varnas, and there are 50 Shakti Pithas also, okay? So what is this link? So the link is between the Swara and the Vyanjana. To make meaning, there is a union of the male and the female sounds, okay? And that union creates an explosion called sphota. So the basic point is every single syllable is sacred. If you view it like that, you know that every time the Swara and Vyanjana unite, they are creating a little miracle, a chamatkara. But of course, as Dr. Singh said, we have got so mental, so jaded, you know, that we are not able to hear things, so that the pristine power and beauty of sound is lost, unfortunately. And then ucharana, pronunciation is so poor, you know, we are not able to pronounce things. So where is this spota going to come from? You know, where is that trigger that will, you know, maybe push our kundalini up or whatever? So I think today's exposition was very significant, and fundamentally we have to meditate on these things and try them out, you know. So every sound is sacred. Once we see that, then the whole language is nothing but mantras, you know. But then if you don't have the bhava, then it's pointless, you know.
That is
You
just words, yeah.
So it's just words, it's just empty words without the dhani. So anyhow,
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Makram.
thank you, Dr. Singh. Very nice, beautiful class. So I'm not in Spring Hill, but I've gotten out of another meeting just to attend the class. I don't want to miss these classes. You know, I think they're very significant in my humble opinion. Anyhow.
So that's absolutely true. You said it very beautifully, Nada Brahma. So taking us back to the original sound is the through experience, not theory. We experience it through anubhava, because all our yoga is about anubhava. Did someone want to say something?
Yeah, I think there is a very small question about this. Maybe if you have time, you can take it.
I'll ask the question.
Okay, I couldn't hear it. There was a little disruption.
Yeah, he's saying there is a question in the chat if you can take it. So that's
Okay.
my question only. So when we do the patha, at the start of the shloka, in the first word there is tre gunya visha, but we don't say the visarg here. But Veda we say Veda. Similarly in the second line. So how do we figure out where there is visarg and where it is not?
I was afraid you would ask that question. See, the sandhi of the visarga is very complex. Visarga, that's why sandhi itself is complex. And usually when someone wants to learn Sanskrit, the last thing I talk to them, okay, Rajesh ji, namaste. Last thing I want to talk about is sandhi. Sandhi is a beautiful unity of sounds, but it can be pretty complex. So usually a visarga before another sound will modify itself. And you might have seen that, let's say, we don't have it in this one. Let me see if I can find another shloka where it changes its sound, just to give you a sense of how it changes its sound. Let's see, maybe the first or second shloka. Dharma Kshetre, let me see if it is. It is called Visarga Lopa. where the visarga disappears. Let's do shloka number 1.1, just as an example. And I'm trying not to give you all the rules of visarga because you'll run away after this. So I don't want to confuse you. Be patient with the knowledge. Knowledge will come. Vyakarana will come. I'm trying to keep you away from the Vyakarana because it's painful. But if it becomes natural to you, I guarantee you, you will know all these rules yourself. So let's read this. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre. And maybe we can do the padacheda too. Samaveta yuyutsavaha. Mamakah pandavaschaiva. Kim kurvata sanjaya. So you see, if you go to padacheda, the samavetaha, go to padacheda below this, the
Yeah.
in padacheda, samavetaha yuyutsavaha. But when we do the patha, there is no visarga. Why is that? So the visarga doesn't like to be with other, I shouldn't say like. When there is a following sound, the visarga changes. And that is to make the flow of the sound smooth. I'll give you an example. So some ya sound, ya, where is the ya sound coming from? Ya, ra, la, va. Ya is coming a little deeper. Ya. So if you had to say samavetaha yuyutsavaha, feel this. Samavetaha yuyutsavaha. So you are pushing the air out, samavetaha, and then you go back to ya, yuyutsavaha. Sanskrit, the modulation is done so that you go closer to that sound. Whenever sandhi happens, you go closer to that location usually. So what happens? Samaveta, it doesn't go outside, but it goes inside. Samaveta yuyutsavaha. So the visarga disappears. Samaveta yuyutsavaha. It's called visarga lopa. Visarga disappears because instead of taking your energy outside, the visarga disappears because your energy has to go inside. So when you do the patha, it becomes samaveta yuyutsavaha. At the end of the pada, the visarga stays because after that there is nothing. So the visarga, think of it like an echo, pratidhvani. Sarga is to create. Visarga is to push out, to create outside, to create an active energy. That's the meaning. Like utsarga. Utsarga, when I give all of myself. Ut, above. Ut, sarga. So sarga is to create. Comes from the root srija. Srijan, you might have heard of srijan, srishti. So from that comes the sound sarga. It's a creation. You are creating. Whenever in our tradition, whenever you push the air out, you are creating. See, you have narrowed the sound. U. Now you do it. E, U. See the difference between E and U? E is supposed to be a narrowing. E. When you do I, you realize what is happening. I is different from is open. I is narrowing. Ooh, ooh, you're widening. You're expanding. Ooh. I, ooh. That is the way I could understand it. I is like somebody has just narrowed you down. I. But ooh, you're spreading it. So the visarga also plays. Visarga should not be a jarring sound. Sanskrit has a madhurya about it. It's called euphony. How the sounds flow into each other. So I'm just giving you the theory because when I go to the details, you'll beat me up. But Samaveta Yuyutsavaha. Is that better sounding? Or if I said Samavetaha Yuyutsavaha, just play it in your ear. Samaveta Yuyutsavaha. Samavetaha Yuyutsavaha. So our ancients, they figured out that when the sandhi happens, you have to take the sound closer to the next sound. Even in English, that happens. Like you say, I got you. But when you say quickly, I gotcha. Right? You say gotcha. You don't say I got you. The t sound, got, and then ya comes, the t becomes ch. Gotcha. Right? In English, we do that when we speak quickly. So Sanskrit made a science of it. Samaveta Yuyutsavaha. Now see what happens in Mamaka Pandavacha. After the Visarga comes Pa. So and Pa. How do you fix it? So the Visarga turns into the sound Fa. Mamaka Pandavascha. Pandavascha. The second Visarga becomes a Sh. Because the Sh is closer to Ch. Sh sound is closer to where the ch, ka is coming from the vocal cords. Ch is a little higher, ch, right? And then comes the ta. Ta comes is the murdhanya. Then comes the ta, and then comes the pa. Right? These are the 5 areas. So ch is coming from here. Ch. Suppose I said Pandavaha cha eva. Suppose I read it like this. Mamakaha Pandavaha cha eva. Versus Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva. Do you see the flow? Mamakaha Pandavaha cha eva. One way of saying it. Mamakaha Pandavaschaiva. Sound is flowing. That is the genius of the Sandhi. And Visarga plays a very important part. There's a whole, when you read Sanskrit grammar, there's a whole chapter on Visarga Sandhi, which you want to beat your head if you start reading it. But if you understand what is behind the Sandhi, then it becomes more intuitive, more natural. So Mamakaf, that fa is not a loud fa, very gentle. Mamakaf Pandavas Chaiva. So you will hear these words thrown at you and don't get panicky about it. Jihva Mulya. Jihva, the tongue, Mulya, the root. And Upadha Maniya. Upadhi at the top, Upadha Maniya. So when a Visarga is followed by the Pa sound or the Pa sound, Pa like Phala, the Visarga becomes Fa. It is here. Fa. Fa, pa. Fa, pa are close to each other. So, Mamaka Pandavas Chaiva. So the ka is here. Ka. The Visarga becomes a fa, close to this, and pa. It has brought the Visarga sound close to pa. Mamaka Pandava Chaiva. Now, sha, saha. If you say sha, saha, the shalgam bala sha. Sha. Where is it coming from? Lower, right? Now you go going lower down. After Pandavaha, you're going to Cha. Cha is lower, right? Ka kha ga ga na. Cha cha ja jaya. Right? Cha is here. So to bring it closer, you go to a Kha sound. Kha. It is called Jihva Muliya. Mamaka Pandavas. Or in this case, with the Cha, you becomes a Sh sound. So Visar becomes a Sh. Pandavaschaiva. Yes, Kamat Manasvarg Para. We'll come to that. So Mamaka Pandavaschaiva. So you took a sound Sh which is closer to Ch. And that is why it is called it takes that Ushna sound. Mamaka Pandavaschaiva. The Visarg will go closer to the sound that is following it. And that is the science of Visarga or any Sandhi. At the end of any pada, the Visarga stays as it is, because the Visarga is an echo. This ability of the sound to flow smoothly and at the end give you the ability to have an echo is what makes Sanskrit resonant. If you listen to Sanskrit, there's always a vibration, like you're listening to the veena, right? Or the sitar. There's a vibration that is not there in the Western languages, because Sanskrit uses all these different sounds and then exploits them, exploits in a nice way, uses every part of our vocal apparatus. So does that make a little sense? I know I've made it very complex, I think, but just know that Visarga has a reason behind it, and that reason is it should sound madhura. One requirement of Sanskrit poetry is it should sound sweet, mradu, and it should sound euphonious. It should have a beautiful flow to it, madhura, and it should be clear, spashta. We don't go mumble, mumble. Strawberry. We don't say strawberry. If you listen to a British guy, strawberry becomes strawberry. They'll swallow their words. We don't swallow sounds. Every sound is given its respect, because we said, as Makaranji said, every sound is sacred. So I hope that answers a little bit. If you want to go more into detail of the Visarga, we can do that. But I think at least this basic understanding is there, then you can crack the code.
I think I understood it. Theoretically, the concept, I'm not sure if I will be able to figure out. Maybe while reciting, I might do that.
Yeah, so don't try to figure out too much. That is the problem with our teachers who try to teach Vyakarana first. Because guess what? You will never remember the Vyakarana. When
Yeah.
you're talking, do you remember the Vyakarana? But we always go back to the Vyakaran to say, okay, this is what I should say. No, let the language flow come. Someone pointed out 2.43. Let's look at that, see what that happens, what happens to the Visarga. I've run out of time, but let me just quickly take 2.43. I think you pointed that. See what happens to the sound there to the Visarga. Kamat manah swarga paraha. See, this is another beautiful. So here the Visarga becomes a sa sound. Kamat manasvarga paraha. So listen. Kamat manasvarga paraha. Kamat manasvarga paraha. If I said kamat manah swarga para, there would be a jarring, but it flows into it. Kamat manasvarga paraha. So if you can play Swamiji on this, you will hear what I'm saying. And that's why I like him, because he's so clear.
आत्मानस्वर्गपराः जन्म कर्म फलप्रदाम्
See if you can do that again.
विशेषबहुला भोगैश्वर्यगतिं प्रति
I play again.
Yeah.
कामात्मानस्वर्गपराः
See?
जन्म कर्म फलप्रदाम् क्रिया विशेषबहुला भोगैश्वर्यगतिं प्रति
So kamat manas, the visarga becomes sa sound, like a hissing sound. Kamat manas. Then you flow into the swarga paraha. So how beautifully, like a bridge, it has become a bridge to the next word. Kamat manas swarga paraha. See, it flows from beginning to end. It is seamless. If you go back to the original Sanskrit scripts, everything was written. This would not be written as separate words. This will be all one word. It would start with kamat, manas, svarg, para, janma. It will all be lumped together. And now we make it easier. The whole Sanskrit Shastra is written continuously. But we don't want to go there. So just understanding what happens to the Visarga. We can go more over the Visarga as it'll become clear to you as you practice it and you realize how it makes the language smooth. All right, we'll come back. I promise. We'll come back to it. But it'll become natural. It won't be painful.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Pranam, namaskar sabko. Thank you.
Thank you.